The Senate has approved the Rescissions Act, which would strip over $1 billion in funding that was already approved for public media.
Critics of the bill say it threatens the survival of rural and tribal stations and jeopardizes the essential services all stations provide to communities nationwide.
TV5's James Felton spoke with the general manager at WCMU Public Media to find out how these proposed cuts would impact them. James?
The general manager tells me WCMU would stay on the air, but it will be a lot tougher.
0.01% of the federal budget is what public media costs this nation. That's $1.60 per American, and yet it impacts 99% of Americans.
Rick Westover is the general manager of WCMU Public Media. Lawmakers in Washington, D.C. are considering legislation that would cut $1.1 billion in already approved federal funding for public media. These cuts would have a direct impact on WCMU. Westover told us what he's doing to try and stop the cuts.
Reach out to our audience and let them know where they can find resources to support the effort to keep public media funding in place. And we utilize a site called protectmypublicmedia.org.
As of right now, WCMU's portion of federal funding is $1.6 million annually for fiscal years 26 and 27.
1.6 million is 19% of our budget. It's a big chunk. For other stations in the state and across the country, that's a larger percentage. Some of those stations may not survive this.
Westover tells me if the cuts happen, difficult decisions will have to be made.
What it might do is limit the resources we have available to us to reach out into our communities, to reach out to our schools and our families.
As Westover said earlier, 99% of Americans can get public TV. He tells us that number will drop if these cuts take place.
Educational content, news and information in communities where maybe they don't have access to news and information otherwise, because we reach a lot of rural Michigan where they don't have broadband. The only thing that they have is an antenna to pull in a signal for radio or television. We're talking about emergency alerting, where again, maybe we're the only game in town that can give them that information.
The amended Rescissions Act still needs final approval from the House and needs to be signed by President Donald Trump to become law. Back to you.
Thank you, James. Arguments for cutting funding to public broadcasting often center on claims of bias and a desire to reduce government spending. Critics argue that PBS and NPR have a liberal bias and that their content is not deserving of taxpayers' support. Some also argue that the internet has made public broadcasting less necessary.